welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC. My name is Benny. That is Sal. Dylan, my brain isn't working. I haven't slept very well.
That's fair.
Today we're going to be talking about the She-Hulk, episode 1, and how much we enjoyed it and loved it and thought it was great. But today's episode is brought to you by G Fuel. I made sure it was nearby this time. G Fuel. Nice.
Hey,
Use code comics at checkout to get so much energy your brain doesn't work like mine.
Oh, no.
No, it'll make your brain work 10 times faster.
I mean, technically it's supposed to.
That's true.
If you sleep and you get it, but you know.
See, yeah.
Check out our other sponsor, Into the AM. You can get some awesome, fun, unique designs and great, just basic t-shirts over at Into the AM. The link is down below. Check it out. All right. Woo! I'm awake. Here we are.
Here we go.
Let's
She-Hulk.
talk about She-Hulk. So, for those who are wondering, we're going to open this up by discussing some of the more positive elements, what we enjoyed, problems like direct actual show issues we had with it, and things like that.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to go through a couple of the more obvious issues that people are having, but probably not the responses you're expecting. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into She-Hulk itself. I will go first. I watched it and I loved it. It felt very much like She-Hulk. It very like her attitude, her behavior, all that stuff about it. I loved that. I loved the fact that they leaned into Hulk is stronger. She has more control over what she's doing. I also loved that they used this first episode to kind of fill in gaps that we didn't know about with the Hulk.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions I didn't know I still had, because at this point I kind of like wrote off the Hulk as just not being the Hulk in the MCU. I mean, a whole rant on how it's just not the Hulk. It isn't. I mean, in any way, shape, or form at this point. You know?
Yeah, this is just some other,
It's just
we'll
a
get into that.
beefy green guy. We'll talk about that in a minute, though. But that's my overall opinion of the show. What did you think, Dylan?
I thought it was fun. I have issues with it, but you know, it's a Marvel Phase 4 TV show. Of course, we're gonna have issues with it.
Yeah,
but
I enjoyed that it was a sitcom, though. It felt very sitcom-y, not a show.
Like, I think that's,
not like a Marvel show.
I think that's my main problem with this episode specifically. But I'm excited for the future of it, because this episode is obviously like it's drenched in like we have to explain why Jen is She-Hulk. We have to explain like where Hulk has been. Like it's kind of it doesn't just get to be a stupid sitcom until the end and throughout like the bits of it. Like it's more of an MCU project than it is just a fun comedy. And I'm hoping with the remaining 8 episodes we'll get that.
I think so. I think because this is the only show where an actual like all the Avenger shows have a lot of housekeeping to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, totally.
Even Hawkeye had to explain so much of like where he's been and what he's been doing and why he matters right now to do a show, you know?
The other ones get the luxury of being like, hey, I'm Moon Knight. Get that? Like, that's it. You know,
and then we go,
like,
you were Moon Knight for 9 minutes, jackass. Anyway.
Yeah. That's not my fault. You know, at least I didn't have to explain where Hawkeye was. Like, yeah, I guess that's true, Mark or whatever. Thanks.
So let's kick it off at the beginning here. The change to her origin. It's not actually that big of a change. Everyone is saying, oh, they changed it. The difference is she gets shot and then has a blood transfusion in the comics. Here it's a car wreck where the blood just kind of hits her. And I feel like they just kind of like shortcutted it. She has to get Bruce's blood, so we'll just car wreck. She gets it right away and we jump right into it.
They like
I don't think it makes a lot of sense, but none of it does.
You know what's funny? There was like a throwaway line where he says something about his blood and how it's like, and I was like, oh yeah, remember when he got like a drop of blood in that soda in the Hulk movie that's set in the MCU?
That's right.
And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing. You guys are really banking on the fact that any of us remember that movie. Good job, but also maybe you should have tried like to show something.
But he also says that she and him have a unique DNA or a unique sequence or something where it reacted to it. So
yeah, and that's fine. Like, you know what? I'm not here to complain about like, you know, why they're special or anything. But I do appreciate that at the very least, it's like they zip past it. You know, it's like, all right.
Yeah. I think it's definitely like it does kind of put like a flag in the sand of like this isn't Hulk or at all anymore, because it's you know, like part of the Hulk mythos is like anyone could become a Hulk given the correct circumstances.
Right.
You know, it's like it seems like only their family can because of their blood.
Well, I think they got to
guess
keep it
that's
tighter
true.
because if you're a Hulk fan like I am and you've read the books, which I know Sal is also, like if you actually read the books, not just the Hulk appearances, there's a lot of Hulks.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
There are too many, well, and arguably there are too many Hulks, and so as a result, like you need to give a reason. I mean, like, but they already, thankfully, if they're happy to reference Incredible Hulk, like we have someone cast as the leader. We have Abomination coming in soon. Like we have a couple of Hulk villains that could be hulky in some way. And look, like just because they are genetically predisposed to processing gamma a certain way, Abomination became a Hulk because they used gamma and other things to make him into an abomination, which is why he is an abomination and not a Hulk. But like you could do Hulk adjacent stuff and bypass the whole genetic thing.
Do the harpy
very easily. Yeah, you could do. Well, this one's red. That's different. That's not a Hulk. Even though he looks just like
red,
Hulk.
Yeah, Red Hulk is Red Hulk because it was the gamma on top of something else.
I was looking for information on She-Hulk, right? For like kind of like over the weekend just to see what the general consensus of the overall show was.
Yeah.
And I did someone put up the origins of She-Hulk, and it was all the red She-Hulk stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's a corporation that doesn't know what they're doing.
Damn, this is a different character.
That is, yeah. Well, you're getting into the deep end. Okay. I mean, because like She-Hulk is pretty standard, and has been around for a long time.
Yeah. And she, like I said, to me, she acted like she was supposed to in She-Hulk. Now, one thing that I noticed, and I looked at the timestamp for this, it was 11 minutes into the show, and we had She-Hulk.
Right.
We didn't have, I half transform, and I'll be fully transformed in episode 8. No, we had She-Hulk, and she's roaming around, she's chatting, like...
Yeah, she doesn't have any growing pains. Like she is She-Hulk. She's like, this is who I am. I like how I look. I like how there is the whole like I want to get back to my life, but like there's no bullshit. Is the point.
And that's what I think I like about this episode. Like despite it being like a lot of that, where it's like, okay, we do need to get over the hump of like who this hero is and how we got there. But by the end of this 35-minute episode, we're there. Like we're set up. Yeah. Status quo. Yeah. She wanted to be a lawyer, but Jamila's here. Titania's here. So she has to be She-Hulk now. And like, that's it. Yeah. Like Bruce is maybe going to be in it for a little bit more, but it's mostly like, this is the status quo now, which I think is cool.
Yeah. And I loved the little moments that we had between her and Bruce, because I loved that Bruce... My favorite line in this episode was actually from Bruce, and I loved that he's tried to explain to her how he can change back, and he's like, yeah, sometimes I get knocked out, sometimes I do this, sometimes I do that.
Fall out of a plane.
Sometimes I fall out of a plane. Sometimes Black Widow just sings me a lullaby. Right. She's like, how does that work? And he goes, I don't really know. Like, I like that he just ran them all through in a heartbeat. Like, yeah. I don't really know how I changed back. I just changed back.
Right.
And I feel like that a lot of the Hulk's moments in this were filling in those gaps. Like the gaps because a lot of times Hulk, like between Infinity War and the regular one, just shows up as Smart Hulk.
Yeah.
Like, and that was one of my biggest problems with Endgame, where it's like, where's the Hulk? You had this whole thing where the Hulk is afraid and you didn't deal with that.
I read a thing that said that, like, they actually have him do that. Like, originally, they may have even shot it, but I don't remember if that's true, if they shot it or if it's just in the script. But he becomes Smart Hulk in Infinity War. Like, he is supposed to have
I think there's concept art for that.
Yeah, they already set it up. Like, he does it in Wakanda, and then he blasts out of the Hulkbuster thing as Hulk.
Yeah,
like, there was a plan to do that. And I'm like... Oh, cool. And they said, it was asking a lot, and they wanted everything to be really dour at the end. Like, everyone loses. Mm-hmm. They shouldn't also have, like, but Bruce works things out. Like, we don't need that. And I'm like, that's fair.
They were saying there was a combo of that, and it just was too much going on at the end there to also kind of resolve his plot. Yeah. But that was one of my biggest issues as a Hulk fan. We never, like, you set up, like, ooh, the Hulk is scared of something. Oh, no, he's done. Yeah. Hulk's done now. It's fine.
I remember when they were trying to bury the lead with that, where it was like, people would go, oh no. Like, I remember the people involved in Infinity War saying, oh, it's not that the Hulk is afraid of Thanos. That's not what it is. Like, you'll see what it is. And then we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the weird thing too is like I think it's just like weirdly for MCU pre-phase 4, like poor planning, because like they have because you need to usually, at least so far with the MCU, your question is, if you want to have a threat, you need to get rid of Thor and you need to get rid of the Hulk.
Yes.
And like Thor is done very well in Infinity War, where he comes back and everyone's like, oh shit, now it's time. But then Hulk, like, the problem is like, you just had Thor Ragnarok, which was Planet Hulk, which is the way that you get Hulk off world for stories like that. Yeah. But then he's back, so it's like, oh, well,
that is
we wasted
that is an actual problem with the MCU, like you're saying, because in the MCU they don't do it like comics where you can just ignore the existence of another superhero. That's kind of what they do in the
I don't
comics.
know. Thor
whatever.
2 does that. Iron Man
Yeah, they
3
definitely
does
do that to a
Like, they're
degree.
pretty good at ignoring superheroes existing in their
But when you have an
interconnected
event
superhero
movie-
universe. Yeah,
Yeah,
in an
the
Avengers
event
movie,
movies
right.
they try to because
Yeah.
because every event that happens in the Marvel comics, they're always like, "Where's Spider-Man? Oh, he's dealing with this." Like,
Yeah. Well, usually it's Spider-Man
Yeah.
going, "Where are the Avengers of the Fantastic Four?" And it's like,
Right.
"Oh, they're in another dimension or something." And he's like,
They're in
"Nah,
space.
Yeah.
They're all the Phoenix right now. Who knows?
Right. When in reality, they're actually just playing pool together and they're just ignoring.
Right.
They're
yeah,
like, you're just
We don't
we're
like
gonna let you get
Spider-Man.
beaten to death by more Lunds. Sorry, Pete. But yeah, I thought it was the thing with the Hulk in this and Jen's interaction with him, I liked it for about a third of it. And then after a while, I'm like, we're spending a lot of time. And Mark Ruffalo, like, I don't know, I felt like he was kind of phoning his performance in a little bit. It was very like kind of blasé. Like, not that he was sleepwalking. It was more that he was just like, "Oh, cool, and this is the show where I can really just like play it up and be goofy."
Right.
And I'm like, "Okay, cool."
Well, I feel like
That's
part
kind of
of
her
he's
job.
just. I feel like he's just he himself wasn't there that much. He was just Smart Hulk, you know.
Right.
And unlike in Endgame, where I don't remember Smart Hulk having like too many scenes where he needed to really exemplify his character. He just kind of
No.
shows up, fixes the problem, and they move on.
Yeah.
Here, he had to have a lot more of a range of emotion, and maybe he doesn't know because I haven't seen Mark Ruffalo doesn't do cartoons, does he?
No.
So he might just not do well with the
so.
voice work aspect of it, you know?
Probably.
I mean, I'm sure he did all the mocap.
Yeah, they had
but,
to
like-
because that's his face. Like,
Right.
Well, yeah.
And I don't know. It's weird. I just don't think that Mark Ruffalo is right for this role, and that he ever has been. Like he's so much better in other roles. That it's just
Yeah.
weird. Like most of the time, Mark Ruffalo is either like a burnout or like a
Rom-com
detective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
I've
a
seen him in
rom-com
rom-coms,
lead
yeah.
or a detective, and he's
Yeah.
never. He's never this weird like scientist. Like I'm also the Hulk. It's a weird casting decision.
he's really good in Avengers.
Yeah. I
the
mean, I
first
like
He's
him.
Avengers.
great
Avengers.
in that.
And then they
he
just go
does
like,
that like, and I think that's because I'm thinking of Zodiac here, but like in Zodiac, he's a very like burnt out like detective who's trying to like deal with what he's got.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how he is in Avengers, where he's like, there's that scene where he talks about how he put a bullet in his mouth and the Hulk spit
sure.
it back out.
Everybody always cuts
Like,
that scene.
that's-
They always want to talk about like how he's like that's
Sure.
his trauma. He's really sad. I like the scenes where he's like around authority and he's not used to being invited, so he's usually used to like if I
He's
see a
kinda, like,
person
awkward.
if I see a
Yeah.
soldier or a policeman, I have to run or turn around, and he always does that in every scene. You watch him in Avengers, like when he's on the helicarrier, like he will like try and avoid anyone who like looks like a soldier, because of course he does, because he's the freaking Hulk.
Yeah.
But like when he's talking to Tony, like that's when he like lets his guard down a little bit, and it's like there's a lot of like acting going on where he plays
Right.
Banner, especially because he's like playing up against Edward Norton not too long ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
I
they
think
went
that's-
like, oh,
maybe
we
it's,
don't really care.
I think it's too far gone from there now, where like he's
Yeah.
just comfortable in the role, and the stuff
Yeah.
that he's being given is not like challenging at all.
Right. He's just
Well,
happy, but he likes
he's the
these
exposition
movies.
dump. I mean, for
Yeah.
the most part. And for the most part, his
Sure.
role in this episode is to tell Jennifer how it's supposed to be and how her life is gone to set up her version of the anger.
Yeah.
It's like that's all he's really here for. I mean, we get a little exposition where he explains. Oh, because like I said, I laughed at the scene where he explained, like in passing, how he changes back.
Right.
Like, and then he in passing explains the arm, and
Yeah.
he in passing explains everything else that you need to know about the Hulk. Spending most of his time trying to talk to Jennifer, and I think that might be where the disconnect was, Sal. Because how much did he just get to be the Hulk? The only real scenes we got of the Hulk was him at the bar.
Right.
Like
right.
that was the only scenes where he gets to just be the Hulk. Other than that, he's teaching Jennifer.
Which I do appreciate, because they also, you can imagine a number of criticisms that they're trying to get ahead of, which include things like, how is she so easy at being the Hulk? How does she understand all this stuff about hulking? And also, like, do we buy that these two are related and have any kind of relationship?
Right.
And we
Right.
do. Like, that at least, I'm like, they have some
think
good
that's done
chemistry.
well.
I buy it. And also, I don't need any more Hulk in this entire show. Like, we've got
Same.
him. He does that, and we move on. I think we're okay.
Well, the problem-
I expect him to show back up, because I think he likes making these things. Like, I think he's
Yeah.
just happy to be there.
Yeah.
He's not like
and
one of those
also
people
they
who's like,
set up a plot for him.
oh, yeah, right. Well, and the thing is, all of our criticisms about the Hulk, I'm just like, just be patient, because I'm like, eventually they are going to run out of crap to make up, and they have built. It will be sad when he becomes Savage Hulk again. Like one day, they'll either get the rights to have to make their own movies, or they won't care. And they'll just and they'll make him the antagonist of an Avengers movie again or something. And he'll be Savage Hulk again.
He said in this, and like we've known this, but he reiterated it, that he was Savage Hulk on Sakaar for 2 years. And the Sakaaran ship is what crashes their car. Trying to get him a message is what he assumes. I think he's got a kid on Sakaar. I think.
Well, the rumor has it that World War Hulk's going to be a show. Now, that's just a rumor. I got no,
I have no interest in watching any more of these shows that should be movies, Marvel. Knock
Oh,
it
yeah.
off.
No, if World War Hulk with him having a kid is a show, it's 100% like, no, what are you doing?
Cool, it'll look
I
a
think
little
what they-
cheaper, and it'll be shot really badly, like this show was,
I think
unfortunately.
maybe what they're doing, at least what they should do, is by the end of the show, maybe you get rid of Hulk again, right? Because that's your problem with the MCU is always like, we need to get rid of Hulk for some reason because he's too powerful. So you just do Planet Hulk again. You send him back off because he's got to go see his kid.
Yeah.
And then later, when they figure out the rights with Universal or whatever, they can do their World War Hulk movie.
Well, I mean, you
Please.
could do that because if you've read Planet Hulk, he takes care of the arena and everything, and then he's there for a while.
Yeah.
Right. he's
So
there
you
for a
could
minute.
all of that happened, but the only difference in the movie universe is he went back home first.
Yeah.
Then
Right.
he came back because now he discovers the wife, the kid, all that other stuff. You can easily
Right.
play that out.
Oh, yeah.
totally.
And they left that
Hell.
open for that possibility.
They could clean that up where they're like, no, Scar is the prisoner of the Red King.
Yeah.
And so Hulk has to work with the Old Strong and kick ass, take over. They win, and then things get messed
be
up
so
in
cool.
World War Hulk.
I would
Like
love
just put the sun in there, or the sun dies too, and it's like, oh,
Sure.
because Scar, there's nothing to do with him. I'm sorry, Scar is a
No, there
nothing
isn't.
character, and he's just a MacGuffin.
Like most
anyway,
Hulk characters.
Exactly. But moving on to the She-Hulk show, we talked about some things we liked. We didn't talk about She-Hulk herself. I think
Tatiana Maslany.
Tatiana Maslany.
She's
good.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought she
Yeah.
did a
She's
great job
wonderful.
with the role. I actually really enjoyed it because it felt straight out of the comics. Like she actually looked at how She-Hulk acts. Because I'm not the world's biggest She-Hulk fan, but I have read a few of the individual volumes, especially the Dan Slott run. She has been in the Jason Aaron's Avengers, which I am apparently the only person in the world enjoying.
Yes. Yes, you are. That is true. Your award's in the mail.
It's also not She-Hulk in that.
Yeah,
in that
she is
book.
not She-Hulk. And I thought they were going to I thought that was
I
some
thought they were going to go
synergy.
that direction with her.
Me
I thought she
too.
was actually going to replace Hulk because in that, he wasn't allowed to use Hulk because of Immortal Hulk. So
Right.
he did what he wanted with She-Hulk to make her beefy and
good
be the
book.
Hulk. But
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
thought that's the direction they were going to go. But no, they're just classic lawyer She-Hulk.
Yeah, which is
which is
the
cool.
way it works. Honestly, for me, She-Hulk has always been basically the Wonder Woman of the Marvel Universe. And I mean that in a way where it's like Wonder Woman is just this epitome of femininity and like feminine power, and like she's a superhero and she's part of the Trinity and all that. And Marvel doesn't really have one. I was so thrilled to see in this show. The one thing, despite like how poorly this show is shot and how iffy the CG is and how like I don't even know what the direction is and the Hulk stuff, I like it because it epitomizes what Jen Walters is. It introduces everything, and it gets all that work out of the way. Like the pilot for me was like it was good in as much as I enjoyed it and I had fun and I like She-Hulk, but it also got a lot of heavy lifting and like work out of the way. So now we can just get
right.
It's
into-
almost
what
like
I
an
was saying,
episode
is it-
zero.
Yeah,
it sets
it's
everything
like a zero
up.
issue.
That's. I think they should have, because I don't remember what show they did this. I feel like Marvel did this with. I mean, DC's been doing this for a bit, where they drop
Right.
a few episodes at the start.
Yeah.
I think I'm thinking of The Boys, where they drop 3 episodes at the start of the most recent season.
Yeah.
I feel like they should have at least dropped 2 episodes
Big time.
to begin with.
Like, so
I
we
was-
see a normal She-Hulk episode,
Right,
not
right,
just the
exactly,
setup
because
episode.
we get like maybe a couple minutes of what the show actually is.
Yeah.
In its entire run.
Totally.
And yeah, I think what's there, like what is important to this show, they're nailing, which is
Yeah.
She-Hulk. And I think, Sal, like you kind of mentioned, the CG's a little
It's a little iffy.
I think, honestly, my problem with it is, like, because I could forgive a show with a new model, right? Like, a new model of a character with new mocap and everything. This is the first time we're doing it in a show. It's not
Yep.
going to look great. Especially
Yeah.
when it's put up against Hulk, which is a solved thing at this point.
But my problem
that's-
is that because I think Hulk looks a little iffy.
I think he looks much better than She-Hulk does.
Yeah, that was my argument early on, where everyone's like, She-Hulk CG's a little off, and I'm like, well, where she's next to the Hulk, where the model's kind of finalized.
They should.
There's no work.
He looked a little cartoony, and I think that's just because of like the bad lighting and or at least like the bad on-set lighting versus fake lighting.
I think we're also maybe used to seeing Hulk with like drastic, like crazy expressions on his face because he's like always screaming and he's always hulking.
Right,
like,
but him just walking around and like making a margarita. That's like
right.
I loved the bar. I loved the bar that he made with Tony for Cap.
I would love to watch that show.
Me too. I love the idea that like mostly he just complained about Cap. It's like Tony went to Mexico to get over a breakup with his with his side piece, the Hulk, and I'm like, that's really funny.
That's fun.
And that was my favorite part of the fight sequence. That he flies into the bar and he just stops and he's like, "My bar!" Like,
it was sad when it broke. I was like, "Oh, like that's because Tony's freaking
means
dead."
a lot to him, right? That's something I wanted to say about I think the thing that's really killing the CG is her hair. Because they chose to go with a very like classic 80s She-Hulk hairstyle.
Yes.
Which looks great in the comics.
Yes.
But like when it's just so perfectly like coiffed,
it doesn't
and
move.
It
just sits there.
It doesn't move at all.
And that's
I think
the
part
killer.
of the problem with that also is the Tatiana, I think her name is, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is Jennifer doesn't have that hair.
Right.
Like, her hair's not curly.
It's a little confusing.
Changes, which is weird.
In the comics, Jennifer's hair stays the same style.
Mm-hmm. At least length.
And length. It doesn't that doesn't change his Hulk.
Yeah.
I think the easy thing, and I don't know why they didn't do this, because video games do this all the time. The easy thing to do is they make a couple shots where her hair's all frizzy, and then she's like, oh, I got to take care of this. And she puts it up like she does in this episode, and she does a lot in the comics. And like in this episode, when her hair is up in a bun and she just has the face framing pieces, she looks so much better.
Oh yeah,
like it looks way more natural.
Yeah,
it's weird.
She does that at the end sequence, doesn't she? When she has to Hulk out to fight Titania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, her hair's all big in the end sequence. It's when they're training on the beach. She has her hair up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this looks way better.
I want to talk about the training real quick because everyone's using that as like, oh my god, they nerfed the Hulk. First off, my argument with the nerfing of the Hulk is that's been that way since Age of Ultron. We've not had Hulk in the way that
he's not angry anymore.
No, even in Ragnarok, he's not angry. He's just getting drunk and slamming weapons around.
Right?
Like,
can they bring Liv Tyler back, please? Like.
That's fair.
Come on. The Black Widow thing, I admire that they stuck with it or at least referenced it for as long as they did. But like, come on. Especially with Ross being
Betty
dead
allow.
now. Like, come on.
But because a lot of people are like, oh, they nerfed the Hulk. I'm like, no, this is the Hulk we've had.
Yeah,
like,
this is the
Hulk.
MCU Hulk.
I made a whole rant about this at Endgame that we've never gotten the Hulk. We never did. And that's due to a rights issue for those who don't know. There's no one knows for certain, but there's rumors that they got the rights back to the entire Hulk franchise now. But
that would make sense.
Even if they did or didn't, up until now at least, they haven't had them.
Right.
So they didn't. The thing was they weren't allowed to use the Hulk in a Hulk movie without paying out the buttloads to Universal. So what they did was they would backdoor Hulk into other movies. And what you can't do is do a Thor movie and make the Hulk better. You can't do an Avengers movie and make the Hulk the strongest, best one there is. So you have to keep him on par with who he's with. So they've always nerfed the Hulk since Age of Ultron.
I could imagine there being a kind of clause where it's like, if the Hulk is like the main character, then it's technically a Hulk movie. Or if the Hulk occupies like 2/3 of the plot, then it is a Hulk project and therefore falls under that category. Like, you can't have the
Universal
Hulk.
wants their money.
Exactly. And it's like, listen, like, Disney's got enough. I mean, but at the same time,
it's true.
Your second MCU movie was the Hulk, man. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And then Ed Norton went and screwed it all up.
But the problem is, and I hate to say this, but the Hulk's not big enough for them to deal with it like they do with Spider-Man.
Right.
Spider-Man's a big deal. Hulk, they're like, we can put him in the background. He doesn't have to be a primary character.
It's like, when is the last time you've heard about a mainstream Hulk comic book being good aside from Immortal Hulk?
What, the most recent one you mean?
Yeah, exactly. The one that somehow outsold
the
Batman.
Red Hulk saga is well known, the Red Hulk saga, but that's more because of Red Hulk.
It's well known, but not like, I've never met a person who's like vaguely interested in comic books and is like, oh, you know about Red Hulk? Like, what? How do you know about Red Hulk?
Fair.
So that's the first big argument that I've seen against this movie, and I don't agree with it, just because the Hulk hasn't been the Hulk in a very long time anyway, and I do think they kept a good job of he's stronger, and I love that he gets jealous and shows it off, like hucking the rock across the planet.
Yeah,
like,
that's the kind of thing a Hulk would do. Like Hulk is petty, and like he's
That's another thing I don't love, and I get maybe I don't love this about the comics either, but She-Hulk just being like she's just like a built woman. She's not like, she doesn't look like the Hulk,
Right.
Like she just looks like a very strong, tall woman, which is fine, especially like in the context of like she's she has control over power, so she's not as big. But also, like, the Hulk he still looks like the Hulk. Like, he's smaller, but he's still, like, giant.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I would like to see, maybe at one point in this show, we get Savage She-Hulk at some point.
I feel like we will.
Massive.
The problem is with Savage She-Hulk, and I wouldn't put it past MCU to go with it, is that it's such a new concept. Savage She-Hulk is not...
totally.
When she first appeared, she did go savage, and there are moments in which She-Hulk has lost control, and she does get bigger. Like there's a precedent for it. And it was in the 70s, and she did it in the 90s, and also of course in Disassembled. She gets set. Like she
that's
nuts.
right.
So there's a precedent for her getting big and scary.
Yeah.
So like,
and there was that. I think I guess it has been around for a lot, because even before the Aaron run, there was that the story that some people
Hulk.
love, some people hate.
I think it was Tamaki
Hulk,
did
where
that
she
one.
was,
Yeah.
Yes, she's gray, and like it's after
I didn't like
Civil
that
War
one, because that one
I liked
wasted
it.
a lot
I thought
of
it was
time
fun.
getting
It was fine.
to the point.
Yeah, it had its moments. But yeah, I don't like those Hulks. I would rather watch She-Hulk. I like the idea of...
I agree.
I don't... As a kid, like, pre-woke mob lunacy, like, I remember being happy... I enjoyed the idea of there being a Hulk in the Marvel Universe who was a woman in complete control of herself.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a cool idea, and it's definitely like it's, and that's shown off in this show, where it's like, people handle their emotions differently.
Right.
And like, it's an interesting idea where, like, okay, you have the Hulk who can't deal with this stuff, and then you have She-Hulk who can. Like, that's both ends of the spectrum, and it fits the character through, like it ripples down, where like, She-Hulk has control of her powers, and also she just wants to be a lawyer. So like, that makes sense that she would have that willpower to control it.
And,
that's the entire dialogue that everyone likes to shit all over right now. The entire point of this episode is to show us that they are different characters. We're not just getting Hulk 2.0, but it's a woman.
Boobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we're not getting that. And the point of, like, what's going on in there, and this is all I wanted to say about the supposed mansplaining lines. She never says that directly.
No.
She explains it, sure, but I've seen so many memes where people are like, oh, she says it. Like, no, she doesn't say that. It's you could explain what makes you mad.
She says that she gets angry at stuff just as much as Bruce does. It's just that she gets angry at different stuff than Bruce does.
Right. Well, and the
like
argument, a lot of people are trying to make the argument of the whole point of that discussion and everything going on is that she is different. She doesn't have the other person in her. She didn't have the childhood traumas that Bruce did that created the split personalities. Yeah. So she has a different way of handling things and going over them. And that's what the whole point of all that dialogue is. And then the people are loving to argue like, well, she just doesn't know how angry Bruce was because he lost his friends. And I'm like, you're right. Like, that's what you don't understand. This is episode 1 of a 9-episode series.
Yeah.
And we're either going to explore her discovering different levels of anger, or she's not going to. But the fact is, she hasn't dealt with what Bruce has dealt with. And there's different varying degrees of what's going to make you angry and what you react to. Yeah. If things that make you angry is the catcalling and the boss trying to take your job, that's your level of anger.
Yeah. It's weird too, because I feel like people are confusing where that scene is like, well, I'm going to transform into She-Hulk because of these things, because that does happen once in this episode. But that's not what she's saying. Like, they're having a conversation about anger because Bruce is assuming that that's what's going to make her change. But then later in that scene, she changes while she's getting angry, and Bruce is like, see, you proved my point. And then she changes back to be like, no, you're wrong. I already have control over it.
Right, exactly.
Like, that's the entire argument they're having, because he's trying to argue with her that she's going to lose control over anger.
Yeah.
That she doesn't get the
not.
anger, and once she gets mad, she will be transformed. And it's going to take 15 years to train her. And like at that exact moment in the show, she's like, no, I have a career I want to go back to, my life, my friends. I'm not living on your island for 15 years. And and the argument they're having is that what she has experienced in her life is what has made her mad, and she can control that anger.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, it's a 9-episode show. She might
Right.
lose a friend or deal with a Thanos or go through with the Hulk is gone.
Yeah.
And then her threshold for anger will go higher. That might be what makes her Savage She-Hulk. Might. I have no idea where the show's going.
what happened
and
in
then
the
we
comics.
discover and then we
Thanos showed
discover,
up.
oh crap, she can get so much madder,
Right.
and now she has to control that.
Yeah.
Everyone who
interested in
is
that.
making that argument is crapping
Yeah,
on
me
the
neither.
first 20 minutes of a show.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that at all. Like, I don't understand what it is about like people's obsession with needing to see like misery and like and trauma
And
and
everything.
death and entropy and mass, like, you know, just
I want this to be a fun sitcom.
yeah,
That's
would
what I
like-
want.
You know, I'd like to
Same.
see. I'd like to see the character that I enjoy in the comic books, like not once in the Celebrated Dan Slott run, not once in like any of the runs that you're thinking of, does she lose all control and become a Hulk, a killer? Like, but I think that's just that highlights the difference between Hulk fans and She-Hulk fans, and I don't think, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that
Yeah.
they're, but not just that,
Totally.
but also just like the new generation of people who like superhero movies and have
They just want to see death, destruction.
They have
all
they
that
have built-in
kind of stuff.
expectations.
I think
about
there's there's a lot of, especially nowadays, like there's a lot of want to deal with like mental health and trauma in your superhero stuff, especially since that's so prevalent. And like a lot of writers have tackled that, especially lately, but not everything needs to turn into that, which
Yeah.
I think, like going back to that Hulk comic we were talking about earlier where she's gray and everything, like I think that's why a lot of people didn't like that, because
Yeah.
that's, if you're a She-Hulk fan and you get a new She-Hulk book
Yeah.
and it's the complete opposite of a She-Hulk book,
Uh-huh.
you're probably not going to love it very
No,
much.
that's right. And it's like, no, you know, you'll give it allowances if you know it's going to end soon, but not if it's like, this is the
Yeah.
new status quo for this character.
I mean, She-Hulk is a character that's supposed to be fun. Like, she's
Yeah.
supposed to be the fun
Right.
side of the Hulk. That's
Right.
the
It
point
breaks the
of her.
fourth wall. Like
Yeah.
that's,
She
you know,
breaks the fourth wall. She has control of her powers, so she has to overcome different obstacles because people also see her as a Hulk, expecting Hulk level strength, and she's strong as hell, but she's not World War Hulk level strength. Like
Yeah.
she can't
Yeah.
get madder and get stronger
Totally.
because she has control.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've even had a Hulk who did that when he was Joe Chill. Not Joe, yeah, Joe Chill.
Fix-It.
Not Joe Chill. Joe Fix It. That's it.
Yeah.
Joe
Joe
Chill's
Fix-It.
Batman.
Joe Chill Batman.
Joe
Joe
killed
Fix It, where
Batman's
his whole
parents.
thing was, I'm in control now.
Yeah.
Oh crap, I'm not nearly as strong as I need to be.
Right.
Like,
right. Yeah. No.
Right.
Yeah. That's right. So overall, I mean, like it's a solid show. I had my own gripes with
Good
it.
start.
I wasn't like, bravo, you've nailed it, but I was
No,
like,
definitely
I was
not nailed
entertained
it.
throughout, and I think it only has.
I do feel they nailed She-Hulk though. Now,
Yes.
what they do with the show is going to be interesting, but I
Right.
think they've
I think
initially
they've-
nailed She-Hulk.
Yeah.
with this episode they have set up the groundwork for what could be a great show.
Yes.
Which worries me that I'm saying that because I've said that about everything else.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we'll see, but I'm excited. I
Well,
like this show so far.
Like,
Yeah,
I'm
same.
looking back at the complaints I had about other shows. Like, let's go ahead and say Moon Knight. My biggest complaint about Moon Knight is it started out great, but then it took almost like 5 episodes to get to Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't get to the superhero that I wanted to see. We spent a ton of time doing all this other random side shit.
Yeah.
But She-Hulk managed to get to it in the first episode. You know, like Falcon and Winter Soldier, it felt like a super extended movie. Like
Yes.
at the end of episode 1, you're like, you just basically told me to pause the movie.
Yes.
She-Hulk felt like the first episode was concluded.
Yeah.
Loki was one of the better shows, in my opinion, that has come out because it felt like a show.
Yeah.
And we already knew Loki, and he never got a costume. And that's what I'm feeling like right now with She-Hulk. She-Hulk's already there.
Yeah.
She's already at where I would want her to be at the start of a show.
Right.
So where is it going to go from here? Now it could become terrible. It could. Who knows?
Oh, sure.
I feel like every scene I've seen in a trailer was
Well,
in that episode.
Yes.
So
But we also know like I don't know much about this, but apparently this show is a rotating door for Marvel characters. So
I've heard
we'll
that.
see.
Which, yeah. The only thing we do know is that no Spider-Man characters will appear in it.
No, of course not. And we also know that there won't be good lawyer scenes because
Yes.
the writers gave up.
Yes, they gave up. They said no extended lawyer scenes because we don't know how to write them. I was like, oh, maybe that's not
Yeah,
a
great.
good sign. Well, then please stay away from writing Daredevil.
Which is so weird. By the way, just real quick aside on that, 2 of the writers from Better Call Saul are the head writer and another writer for Echo. Why aren't they writing the She-Hulk show?
What are you doing? Weird.
Huh?
Yeah. Also, how far into Echo are you shooting? Are you almost like maybe don't?
With Echo, I still don't know why that show even exists. Like,
Who's to say?
It's almost because it was created by Charles Soule. The character was created by Charles Soule. Almost an MCU exclusive character at this point because Echo showed up for like those 20 issues and was done.
Well, she was on the new Avengers, and now she's Phoenix, and it's like they're not going to do any of those things. So
She's like sort of important,
even
but
those
also
versions
not
of
at all.
Echo, those versions of Echo are not this Echo.
Nope.
Like,
No.
This Echo is that 20 issue Daredevil run, and
is the David Mack looking Echo. That's all we got.
Now she's got a show.
Yeah, now she's got
But
a
also
show.
Agatha Harkness does. So.
All right,
maybe
which is another
maybe
show I
still
will.
get Phoenix. Maybe the show is going to end with, and mutants are real, and I'm the Phoenix.
That would be very
backdoor for
disappointing.
mutants.
I'd be very disappointed by that. Also, Agatha Harkness, yeah, that's the one show I'll never see. I'll just never watch it. I'm sorry, I just don't care.
That's fair.
All right.
I'll watch it.
All right.
Profound.
I like
all
Catherine Hahn.
She's great, but I don't care. I'm not interested.
All right,
in
guys.
your
I hope you
show.
enjoyed this rundown of She-Hulk and
She-Hulk.
RPD stuff. Let us know what you think down below. My name is Benny. That is Sal, and that is Dylan. And we'll see you guys next week for another episode of She-Hulk.